Fifth Hour Radio Show.
Les, when did you first start getting into all this, learning about survival?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, in a very sort of personal, small way, I used to, play with it myself as far as making shelters and things like that, just on my own as a small kid up at my cottage. I don't know if that was learning at the time, but I was certainly having fun doing it. And I'd be watching Jacques Cousteau films, and I'd be watching Tarzan movies, and I was just into it that way. But I was around in my mid-20s, and I pulled out of my then career of music. I was writing as a musician, and decided to get into only outdoor adventure. And the first thing I saw was a small article for wilderness survival programs, and I jumped right into it.
Now, you're also a very accomplished musician, known worldwide for your harmonica playing. Just between you and me, and I guess the whole listening audience, I love the harp myself. Now, granted, I've never performed, per se, with it. What was it about the harmonica that you love so much to be able to stick with it and become such a great player?
Well, I think that most musicians have an affinity for something. I mean, there are those virtuosos who can play anything they touch, but we all have sort of an affinity towards certain styles, certain types of instruments. And the guitar, although I use it extensively for playing and writing, I'm really, I'm a pretty bit of a hack player on the guitar. I use it mostly for my writing and that. Same thing with the piano. But I discovered that I have pretty good, strong breath control, and so any instruments that were wind instruments, I can always pick them up a little faster. And the harmonica had that whole blues thing going on, and I'm very passionate about the blues, and it also has, the country sweetheart sounds as well. And it was just something that felt good. I felt like I could get good on it fairly quickly, a lot faster than I could with the guitar. And so, I fell in love with it quite early.
Now, you've actually busted harmonica out some on the show, by campfires and stuff. The first time I seen you do that, I thought, wow.
Yeah, well, it's got, the reality is it's kind of cool as a survival instrument because, in fact, one of the latest shows I pointed out, which I don't know why I haven't done it after all these years, but I would often, when I was training in survival, play my harmonica while I walked through the bush because it basically lets all the bears and stuff up ahead know you're coming. And so it works really well for that. It's also, light, easy to carry. It's a good little companion. So it does blend well with survival. The other reason I actually put on the shows too was, just so I could kind of give a bit of a nod to the viewers and go, I'm not just a one-trick pony here. Let me, check this out. And then I blow a little bit of harp, And it's actually kind of worked because the music career has been doing so well, and a lot of people know that, that harmonica is going to be part of what they see when they come to a concert.
Right. Well, something I'm a huge fan of the show, man. Huge fan.
Thank you.
Something I've always wanted to ask, a couple things. The first thing is, how do you decide where you're going to get dropped off?
Well, there's two answers to that. The first and the fun answer is that it's just a total whim on my part. It's like, well, where would I like to go this time? That said, once I do pick a location, it still has to have some kind of survival story to tell. And I can't just, if I go to one desert and I'm going to go to another desert, that other desert has to be different. It has to have something else that I can zero in on and show. Say, look, if this is where you are stuck, these are things you can do, and isn't this cool, kind of thing. So I do a lot of extensive research for the areas that I go to, but the initial decision really is just me looking at the map, going, well, I'd love to go to Australia. And, I can pretty much guess there's going to be something I can do there for survival, but then I do my research after that.
Now, the other thing I wanted to ask is about the cinematography, how you do that. You mentioned in the show that a lot of times, well, most times, I guess, you actually are out there by yourself, and you do a shot, you have like a walk away, and you actually have to go back and get the camera. Mm-hmm. How rough is that? I mean, especially when shows you climbing up a steep embankment or
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, let's clarify, I'm always alone. There's never another camera crew or people out there. I have some camera guys that will come to the location, know where I am. They'll be many miles away, and they'll be shooting time-lapse sunsets and sunrises and stuff like that. But for me, as Survivorman, doing what I do, they can't be with me. So I shoot everything of me is shot by me. And you're right. I mean, there were, a lot of times where, well, it's like this. let's say I'm going to walk through this valley, and I'd look and I'd go, you know, I want to tell the story of me walking through the valley, and I also have to actually do it. So the best thing would be if I could get up over on that cliff ledge there. Whoa, what a shot that would be. And that's when the filmmaker in me, you know, the producer comes out, and I put that hat on, and because I still want it to look beautiful, because I think in it looking beautiful or in shooting it well and shooting myself well, it helps me to tell a better story. So I've always got a bit of a split personality when I'm out there. I'm less Stroud, you know, being a survival guy and having to survive and actually having to do these things, but I'm also less Stroud, the artist, the filmmaker, wanting to tell the story well and capture at least the prize moments of what was going on for that week or that given amount of time on camera and capture it well. It's a lot of work, but it's my passion as a filmmaker is what drives me to do it.
Well, how did you get the gig being involved with television in the first place? You know, what got you noticed and had people interested in what you were doing?
Well, I was working in television. I guess I'd been coming off of many years of adventuring and survival instruction and all that, but I'd had my previous skill set of working in rock videos, so I knew camera work, I knew editing, and I got to a place where I thought, you know, I just want to put all my adventures on film, kind of like the Warren Miller ski films or the Bill Mason canoeing films. I wanted to put my adventures on film, and nobody was really doing all that much of it back then, other than who I just mentioned. And the thing was, I was really big into survival, and I knew there was some great survival stories, but they were not portrayed well on television at all. They were hardly ever out there. I mean, there was really nothing. What you would get might be, you know, a local little news story or something about a class that's going on out at the Humber River or something like that. And I thought, no, this genre, this thing of survival is way cooler than that. And I bet I could show how to make it cooler. And rather than just doing instructional home videos, well, I thought, you know, what if I actually went out and actually survived? Wouldn't that be a great story? And lo and behold, the Survivor series started coming on air in the year 2000 and became a huge hit. Now, it was terrible in terms of actual survival. It was a joke. But I saw it as an open door, and so I called the network's complete and total cold call, and I said, here's what I can do. I'm a filmmaker, but I'm also a survival instructor. I can go out there completely alone for a week and bring you back that film on camera. And they loved it. You know, it was a hit right off, and the rest is history, as they say. And in essence, it's spawned an entire genre of television, of survival TV. In fact, a friend of mine recently was saying not only that, but now, for the first time in bookstores, there's an entire section called Survival. That never used to be before Survivorman came on. You know, it was just a sports section. You find one book, you know. So it's come a long way, but it all started with a cold call into the network, and I guess I sold myself well enough.
Were you surprised at all by the success of the show?
You know, yes, I was. I hoped it would do okay. I hoped it would get on TV. I hoped, you know, but when it really, I mean, it's over 100 countries around the world, and it's been nominated for 13 Canadian Screen Awards, and I've won one. And I was surprised. I mean, I love entertainment, and I love filmmaking, I love artistry, so I grew with it, and I accepted it really well and really quickly. And but for it to have spawned an entire, you know, industry of television, and you know about all the shows that have come along since, and for it to do what it is, fill the survival classes up all throughout North America and even beyond, it's still a little mind-boggling. And I go at it with that strange combination of complete humility and just saying, wow, that's pretty damn cool, and total pride in saying, man, that's cool, you know?
Yeah, I mean, does the attention bother you now that everyone knows your face?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I get recognized so much, and I thought one day, why don't I get recognized so, like, from 100 feet away on the other side of the street? And then all of a sudden it occurred to me, oh yeah, I'm completely myself. It's my face alone for 46 minutes of the hour. I'm not an actor. I'm not playing other character roles. All you see is me. Oh no, that's why people can spot me in a crowd so easily. And does it bother me? No. As I told my daughter when she was younger and different people, you know, when people come up to me as it happens all the time, like last night again, out for drinks, they come up to me telling me they love the show and how it affected their life or even changed their life. They are throwing at me a ton of positive energy. And I just figure, who am I to turn my back on that and spurn it? No way. I'll pause for the photos and I'll shake the hands because hey, I'm not a politician, so nobody's, spitting at me or throwing pop at me. They're coming up saying, man, I love what you do. And so I accept that and wholeheartedly.
Well, has anyone ever credited you for surviving an incident or situation that they found themselves in?
Oh, many times. Many times now. I mean, at least more than a dozen. I've gotten the stories. They've been in the news. In fact, it happened again just last week. Two brothers lost, and both of them came out and said they were massive Survivorman fans, and because of what they learned on the show, they knew what to do. So it happens a lot. But let me tell you something. That's not the stuff that I sit at night alone and think about and feel really powerful, like a powerful emotion from. Those are like kind of obvious, like, okay, that's great. But it's when someone says to me, listen, man, you got me through 8 months on my back in a hospital bed because of your show. My son and I were estranged. We're back together again because of your show. I get out of an abusive relationship because of your show. I mean, how does that happen? But, I put the attention into the show to really affect people in a positive way and be inspirational. And when I get those emails, those are the ones that really cause me to again, go to that place of humility and pride at the same time.
You're a nice guy. When you watch the show, you just, I know I am. I feel like this guy's my friend.
Well, I mean, the whole thing, I started from this place where, I never intended or wanted to be survival guru guy. We'll let the other jokesters try to go for that route. I was just me. I'm just this dumb guy from Canada who's got this skill set and showing what I do, and I just wanted to stay that. I wanted to be every person when I was out there, every man. I wanted to make the mistakes most people made. Now, in reality, of course, I had a skill set that I could draw upon. I was a survival instructor, so I would also show that side too. But every time somebody comes up to me and goes, "Hey, man, I can do what you do," and I think, yes, you can. Exactly. That's the point. You could do what I do, and I love it when I get a chance to express that thought.
Well, I got to ask you. You've been in some pretty harsh environments, man. What kind of toll does that take on your body? I mean, sometimes what's the longest amount of time that you've been in a spot, and how hard was it on your body?
Well, it's a tricky question. The answer is that it becomes both things. There are times when I come out and I'm feeling pretty beat up, like I've just been through the ringer, and those tend to be the cold shows. See, it's never about geographical location. Like, what's the toughest place? It's not about geography. It's about temperature. Always about temperature. You put me in the steepest, craziest climb in the jungle and 75, 85 degrees, no problem. You put me on a beautiful flat land and it's 20 below zero, forget it. It's hard when it's cold. It hurts when it's cold. Everything hurts, And then on the other hand, there's been times where, honestly, I came out feeling stronger and faster and better because I dropped 10 pounds. I feel a little lighter. I'm feeling peppy. It's like a mandatory cleansing program. And so sometimes I actually feel pretty good coming out of these things. But it is a mixed bag for sure. And as I said, it's the temperature that is the toughest thing of all.
Well, have you ever had an experience while you were filming that you would consider a close call and came close to maybe not surviving?
Yeah, I guess there's two really. In the Kalahari Desert, I got heat stroke, and that was very dangerous. And then more recently, the Norway 10-day episode, that hike down the mountain in that episode, it came at a time, you'll know this, it's like, when you get a little too cocky and a little too sure of yourself, and the only time I've ever really gotten in trouble in survival situations are during those moments, where I'm like, I got this, I'm in that attitude, right? And that's what happened in Norway. I thought, I'm just going to go down the mountainside, and it's snowing and it's freezing rain, but I'm fine. I'll make it down the fjord and try to find a cabin or something. Well, I got lost in a small area, and I got lost, and I came up against cliffs, and behind me, uphill, straight uphill, was, frozen, slippery, icy rock and freezing rain and wet snow. It was a very dangerous situation, very foolish and stupid, just like when I got treated by a moose once. Stupid. But, you know, it's me getting cocky. It's me getting a little complicit and just, complacent and just thinking, well, yeah, I got this. Hey, aren't I Survivorman? I can do this, you know? And I still go ahead and blow it, you know, even now.
Now, you've had your share of what I would consider weird experiences all alone out there. And I've had Cliff Barrickman from Animal Planet's Finding Bigfoot on the show, and he says he knows there's a Bigfoot creature out there. You've had an experience that kind of relates to that, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had a couple. I had one. My wife and I, my ex-wife and I, spent a year living in the forest in northern Ontario, and we had an experience of sound that could not be explained. But then, actually, this is the bizarre part. It was while actually shooting a Survivorman, which kind of sounds like that would be like a cliche. Of course, if I'm out there doing Survivorman, that would be the time. But lo and behold, it was, and I was in Alaska. And I won't go into the whole long story. If people want to Google it, they could Google. The Joe Rogan podcast. I did a long explanation there.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line was what I heard was so loud and 50 feet away and was identical to the sound of a great ape. And I heard it many times and very loud. And there's no moose that sounds like that. And bears don't grunt like that. And when they run away, they don't smash through the trees, bending over trees. It was really wild. And, where do I stand on the subject? Well, I'm not even going to answer that question because I think, mostly, I'm a skeptic.
Yeah.
But I think that the way to look at anything like that, based on all of the anecdotal evidence, which is astounding, is scientifically now. Now I think it needs to be, okay, let's prove it or disprove it scientifically. Then we can all rest.
So let's talk real quick about your book that was a bestseller, Survive, Essential Skills and Tactics to Get You Out of Anywhere Alive. For those that don't have that book and that are interested in survival tactics, what would they learn if they bought it?
This book, if you're an experienced outdoorsman, there is a lot of familiarity in the book, but just the same, the way I approached it is this. If you, and I don't mean this to come out like I'm doing a comparison thing here, but that's the way I can describe it. If you look at the books in existence, first of all, lay them all out on a floor together and just check out the plagiarism. It's really unbelievable how much has been transferred and copied over, even to the points, I've got 3 books and they've all got the exact identical same drawing in them. So people are lifting stuff from stuff. If you look at all of these survival books that have been around for years, and bear in mind that when I wrote that book, I wrote it as a survival instructor. Yep, because of Survivorman, I was able to get the deal. I was able to get it published, of course. But the reality is I would have loved to have written that book long before Survivorman came along. Well, what I wanted to do was look at what exists in all the books that I own in my library and get rid of the junk. My book takes you into survival in a way it says, what if you were really stuck? What really could you do? And I got rid of a lot of the nonsense. For example, one of my beliefs is when it comes to wild edible plants, I'm not going to give you 38 pages of drawings of wild edible plants because you're just not really going to be able to identify with that. You need to go out and do a course. You need to have somebody put your hands on that plant, pick it, smell it, taste it, eat it, whatever. That's when you learn. That's how you learn a plant. So I didn't do that in my book. Shelters. I don't have a whole bunch of drawings of shelters because you know what? It all depends on where you end up, and you never end up in a place that looks like the place in the book. So it's, I wanted it to be a book about the essential skills of survival, taking you from the ground level on up so that you could actually kind of have it with you and go, well, follow this through and we'll be okay.
So outside of your TV show and your harmonica playing and your music, what do you like to do? Do you have any interesting hobbies, collections, favorite TV shows that you watch?
Well, what do I like to do? I'm still an adventurer. I love diving. I do a lot of underwater diving, and of course I used to do Shark Week stuff, and I might do more. So diving is a big thing. I've recently been saying, I spent years as a canoe guide, but I've got some undone canoe trips. I want to get back out there. So a lot of outdoor adventuring is part of my blood. But you know what? I love concerts and shows. I love going to see rock concerts as much as possible. I got a big to-do list there on concerts I have not yet seen. You know what? And this is the bizarre one. Based on what you've seen me eat, I've actually, because of all my travels, become a bit of a foodie. So now I love going down to Vegas and going out to the restaurants because the food's so awesome. Because I'm, stuff stuck eating when I make my show, you know. And then as far as, you know, what I like to watch, wow. I mean, I'm pretty addicted to a lot of non-fictional stuff like music documentaries and things like that, even music concerts. And same for my reading. I'm very I read a ton of biographies. I love the inspirational biographies of everybody from, you know, actors to politicians. And then as far as TV, wow, man, I only watch TV when I'm in the hotel rooms traveling through, and there's a lot of garbage on TV, and I have a hard time. I do not do reality television, and there's not much. I watch stand-up comedy. Love stand-up comedy. That's always my release is watching stand-up comedians.
So what's coming up for you in the series and the show? Any other projects you have going on or anything coming out here real soon?
Oh, man, I've got so much. We could talk about that for an hour, but I'll make it quick. It's like a shopping list. 16 new Survivorman shows coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 16. So 8 of them are brand new location shoots, including 2 of them with my son, Survivorman and son. And he's 16. So we just.
So are you teaching him the ropes?
Yeah, and he does not know the ropes. He's better at Call of Duty than he is at getting a fire going. So, but he's a good man, and we're really close. So we've done 2 of those shows. And then there's another 8 shows. We call them in the business, we call them repacks. What we did was, and it's great because I've been trying to do this for years. One show will be dedicated, for example, will be dedicated to fire. And that entire show will be all of the fire methods I've done over the last 12 years. And then I'll put in behind-the-scenes information and more skill stuff, and I'll be voicing over, you know, all the stuff that goes on behind. And I'm excited about it. We have fire, shelters, food, dangers, things like that. So there's 8 new shows like that. I've got I'm signing a new recording contract with an independent label distributed by Universal and E1, and so I've got 3 new albums coming out likely over the next 3 years now, and one of them's already ready. And I'm writing my 3rd book for HarperCollins called Beyond Survivorman, which is the behind-the-scenes story of what I went through filming the series Beyond Survival, which did very, very well, but it's not out there as much, and that's when I was around surviving with all the indigenous people throughout the world. And so I've got a book coming out, new CDs, concerts. I'm looking to tour the Southwest, all of the states, starting probably March, and I'm looking to actually move down there. So I'm looking for a spot down in the southern U.S. to move to. And then the Survivorman, I don't know, probably more, but there you go.
What about the official website and your official social media site?
We try to stay really busy with it. I got a wonderful social media person that keeps me active. It's leftstroud.ca, CA for Canada, right? Leftstroud.ca, and then the Facebook one. Actually, I'm sitting on it right now. Is Real Les Stroud. We had to go with that because, I don't know, there's a guy named Les Stroud out there who's already got it. So Real Les Stroud, same thing with Twitter, Real Les Stroud. Stay very active. That is me answering the posts. I love talking to the people and staying active with it. And so I keep that going as much as possible. And that is the place to find out where everything's going on, the next concert I'm doing, when the next show's on, and so on.
Well, Les, man, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Let's do this again in a while.
The 25th Hour Radio Show.